Hi, for all of those people that have been following me on my YouTube channel. I thought I'd make a small video about how I've got to where I am now, and some of the lessons I've learnt along the way. Now, I started with some borrowed radio gear. This radio gear's Fibre radio gear. It's PCM, and unfortunately it's throttle on the right hand stick. So I started flying this with my primary flight controls on the left hand stick, but I was using my right hand to fly it. I'd set the throttle at the appropriate place and then I'd fly this left hand stick, which is okay to start with, and especially considering my training aeroplane was a 3-channel pusher. Now, this thing I scratch built myself. It's my version of the Newton Airlines trainer aeroplane, and all the details for that trainer aeroplane are of course on Andrew Newton's site. I've used a spring pull system for elevator and rudder. The aerial hanging out here is because the radio is 35 megs, of course. It's an older radio, and the whole thing's taped together with generous applications of the reinforced tape. The servos are under here and the pull lines run down through the tail and appear here. Now, a couple of lessons I learned making this aeroplane. I started off with this nose. These are only just taped on, by the way, with duct tape, and the battery in this nose is buried in here. However, after and then fitted into the aeroplane, poking the leads up there. After burying this aeroplane a couple of times rather stoutly into the ground, I became a little bit concerned about damaging my LiPo batteries. So I shortened the tail and started flying with this nose. And in some of my videos you'll notice that the aeroplane is actually has lost stability in pitch, and I'm literally struggling to keep the aeroplane in the air as I fly. After I discovered the problem, of course, and the problem was that my centre of gravity was in the wrong place, because I'd shifted the battery further back, put that nose on there, so my CG was way back here, at about 40% of the wing chord, and that was the reason why it was terribly unstable. I then made another nose, which is this one here, my pusher one nose. That's taped on, and I put a little bit of lead ballast right at the tip of this nose. Now, I did that to get my CG in the correct place, and I've got this big long squishy thing out the front that I can well, hopefully save slamming my batteries into the ground, because the battery would then live up inside here with this big squishy nose on the front. Anyway, first lesson was you need to be very careful about your CG, and make it about I don't know, 15 to 20% of your from the leading edge of your wing chord. That was the first lesson. The next lesson I learnt with this aircraft was dihedral. I started making wings like this. They are polystyrene wings. They've got a balsa spar set into them to reinforce them, and they're covered with wet brown paper, packing paper, which is held on with watered down PVA glue, and the whole thing is the brown paper is wet first, and in the drying process it shrinks up really tight. I then paint them, more for recognition in the air than anything else, and then the parts which are stressed on this wing are reinforced with tape. Obviously, because I slammed the wingtips into the ground, the wingtips are all solidly taped up, and there's another run of tape right the way through the bottom, and the leading edge is taped, and also this area here where the rubber bands going over the top tend to squash it. But the issue with this particular style of wing is there's not enough dihedral, and so I started making wings like this. And as you can see by comparing the two, this upper wing has much more dihedral, not only in angle, but a greater percentage of the wing area is in dihedral. Now that improved things greatly, because once you've tipped the plane on its side, of course you need something, if you've only got rudder and elevator, for the plane to self-level. But even these wings, when you tip them beyond the point where this is level, once you get over here, they're quite difficult to bring them back up again, and so you end up applying both rudder and elevator at the same time to get them to come upright. If you're in a flying area where you've got a relatively tight amount of airspace, that becomes a problem in itself, and once again you end up fighting to keep the aircraft in the air. However, I've, because of those lessons learned on this aircraft, I've been able to move on. One of the things that I did, and I recommend a lot of people do, is buy yourself your own 2.4 gig radio control. Now, I bought a Jumper T12. I like this radio because it's small, doesn't get in your way compared to that one. It also gives me a generous selection of receivers that I can use with this radio, because this is a multi-protocol radio. There's been plenty of YouTube videos produced and reviews done on this radio. I've stayed with my 2200 milliampere hour 3S batteries. There seems to be a price break on these batteries at about that size. And what I did is I developed my second aircraft. This is my second aircraft. It's very close in design to my first one. I've called this one Pusher 2. The engine's the same, the basic layout is the same, and to produce my wings I simply got one of my first series of wings for my first aircraft, which didn't have enough dihedral on them, and fitted ailerons, and I cut the servos into the top of the wing here, fitted these ailerons on. The hinges are made of tape. Ailerons themselves are foam board. And this one here, this particular wing, I've slammed this wing into the ground. It's been reinforced with lots of tape as well. I've slammed this one into the ground numerous times, and I've, in the process of learning to fly, I've made notes on the wings just with a permanent marker, and as you can see here, I've got 25%, the 25% wing chords marked, and I've used hot glue and glued a couple of little plastic domes on here so that it's quick and easy for me to check my centre of gravity